there's betrayal and people trying to claw their way to the top, and there's the scarcity mentality to where like, how did you get here? I want to be exactly where you are, and especially from our own skin color, or you walk into a room where you're the only black person within that room, and now you have to be a representative for your entire culture.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Keefe. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Quintessential Gentleman, and today we are talking to two gentlemen who are co-writer, co-director, start with those two, of Brand New. It is a short film that really dives in. I'm going to give a little paraphrase of what it is, and then I'm going to let them give really what it is. But for me, it is a short film that singularly kind of identifies kind of the feelings that most, I'm going to say men, even though you can go as deep as black men, but let's just say men, successful men kind of go into these feelings when they have reached some level of success and feeling like the people behind them, like they owe them something. And then it just gets so much deeper if you think about it and once you watch it. But we have Denzel Whitaker here and Quincy Ledbetter. What's going on, my brothers?
What's going on, man? How you
What's
doing?
going on? Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. I want to just say this was a great piece of work. As somebody who sees a piece of work all the time, specifically in the infancy stage and things like that, I thought this was really well done, and it definitely I identify so much with it. Being even from having success minimally, from working in corporate America to where I am now, having a media platform, there were so many different ideologies I could agree with. And I thought it was really, really well done. And a little upset because it had one song that had me bobbing, and I'm like, where's the rest? I was waiting for more music, and all it was just I had a lot of feelings going on. But before I go off on my tangent, I just want to ask, I'll start with you, Denzel, who actually also stars in the short film. What inspired Brand New?
Man, Brand New is really a personal story for Quincy and I. Um, and similarly, a lot of brothers and even just people in general who we've talked to, right? I remember it had to be around, what was that, Quincy, 2021, where we were on a phone call one day, and Quincy was sharing some of his most recent experiences, some of his hardships that he's basically faced after making his first feature film.
Mm.
And I'll let him kind of speak more to that. But I remember just recalling that conversation, and then similarly thinking about the friends that I similarly had left behind, friendships who I remember the day, I remember the time where we're sitting together and having the thought to myself like, oh man, this is probably the last time I'm going to see you.
Mm.
This is the last time we're going to hang out. And it's, you could feel this sort of pulling away from your brother almost, and you're kind of having this casual conversation where it's like, yeah, we'll do that in the future, but we know it's not going to amount to much. And that feeling in the pit of your stomach where it's like, I've got to move forward, otherwise I'm going to be anchored here. And it sucks because this was one of the first few times where I really talked about it in depth to somebody who truly understood what I was going through. And Quincy was right here with me, and that's kind of what really propelled us to want to write this piece. Not having any end goal other than just to basically have a place to express our emotions.
Quincy, you want to add?
Yeah, sort of just piggybacking off what Denzel said, like I had made my first feature film and it was like with two, big studios. And this interesting thing happened where, I always thought that when you reach a certain level, you know, people come, you know what I mean? But I realized when you reach a certain level, people go, and I was sort of grappling with that. And I had experienced something similar, like I'm originally from Virginia and I moved to New York back in the day. And like, similar to Denzel, had a moment, like a very deliberate moment where I was looking at the homies and I was like, I don't know if I can rock with these cats no more, man. I'm gonna get in trouble messing with these dudes. You know what I'm saying? It's like you, I was lonely, I got lonely and I was also conflicted because I was like, damn, do I feel like I'm better than them? Because I don't think I am, but like, is that what I'm feeling? And then you have people who talk to you, like little side remarks like, oh yeah, you Hollywood now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fam, like it's just me. But am I giving off that vibe? And it's the confusion that I had. And I was talking to Denzel about it. And like he said, we just started writing, you know. And your boy doesn't write things to not do it, to
Yeah.
not make it happen. So so that it was pretty clear once we started writing and started like connecting with the material that it was like, okay, let's go ahead and do this.
So because you said something and it's like, I think a lot of people don't understand, and then you have a few that do, where it's like you feel a certain type of way when people call you Hollywood. I was afraid to call you because I just knew you would be too busy. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, I know you. Like I act like I know you. Like I'm not this type of person. You could text me, it's not a problem. But it's sometimes they put this um I gotta put this costume on you that you didn't necessarily put on. So there's, definitely difference
Yeah.
between people who actually act like they are, don't talk to me. I don't know you anymore. Like, and I don't know if most people are like that. In my opinion, I know I'm not like that. Spoken to you too, not like that.
Yeah.
Um, so for us that are
I
not,
will I will say, not to cut you off,
yeah,
I've been
please,
on the other side of that because I have a whole bunch of friends that have blown up or gotten famous, like that have got on.
yeah,
And it's not jealousy, but there is a feeling where it's like, you know what happens to people at that level where everyone is coming at them. You know what I mean? Like the people go, but also the snakes come, the sharks come, and you don't want to be in the same water as them. So it's like a fear that they have that they're coming off like a snake. You know what I mean? That they're coming off as one of these people that just wants to use them. And I've had instances like that where like, my man's gets on and I'm like, and it's not jealousy. It's not like I think he's too good for me, but it's like I just want to be careful because I want us to have the same relationship that we always had. But relationships change, and obviously, when they get to a certain level, it's going to change. So, what do I do? So, the reason why this is such a strong piece is because I've been in some way, shape, or form each of these characters. You know what I mean?
So let's, before we get too deep into kind of what it is and how we are, I want to know, and I'll come back to you, Denzel, to tell me what is brand new.
Well, okay. Basically, what you guys were just diving into is exactly how we came across the title, right? Because there's two sides of that coin. There's the side of the coin where, like, it is calling somebody Hollywood. It is, oh man, look at you with the fly whip. Look at you with the clothes. Oh, you think you brand new, huh? Oh, you missed a big timer now, right? It's that label that we want to throw on other people, basically, projecting from afar how we think they are now,
Mhm.
just because they've elevated. You know what I mean? It's the snap judgment of your boy comes back to the hood or whatever it may be. And to be honest with you, even removing ourselves from the themes of the film, you get a nice suit and you walk into your office the next day. Somebody calls you brand new. You know, maybe your significant other does something special for you and delivers a gift to your job. Now all of a sudden you're called brand new. Any sort of elevation, somebody from the outside looking in can project that label on you. And then there is, the piece that's a little bit more personal to Anton. There is the piece where we do a self reflection, and it's like, I am a new person. Is it wrong to think that I'm a new person? Is it wrong to think, okay, this is a new echelon that I now have achieved. And with that comes a certain amount of responsibilities. You know, we see the character Anton grappling with the idea of family. And what does that mean? To dedicate his time to the people that he treasures the most for and that he's building the solid foundation for versus the friends that maybe he had left behind. And which priority is now more important to him? You know what I mean? Who is he necessarily building this legacy for? Does that make him brand new? Yes, it is a brand new presentation that he's now stepping out with because he's moved into different circles. Um, just to candidly share, like I was sharing this with Quincy this last weekend. I was in a room full of well-established black men from all different sectors. It wasn't just art; it was people who were succeeding at their highest level possible.
Mhm.
To be in that circle was truly a blessing. But even myself, with the amount of years that I put into the business, found myself being like, how the hell did I get in this room?
Mm.
What did I do to deserve to be in this room?
Mhm.
And then there's the feeling of hearing every single, person within that group express how lonely they felt,
Mhm.
how there's betrayal and people trying to claw their way to the top. And there's the scarcity mentality to where, like, how did you get here? I want to be exactly where you are. And especially from our own skin color, or you walk into a room where you're the only black person within that room, and now you have to be a representative for your entire culture. You know, there's all these sort of things that, I could say specifically we as black men grapple with, but just people of success. When you move into a new environment that you're not used to, and then that environment comes with its own sort of rules, its own sort of decorum, and now you have to adjust. Is everybody ready for that new room? Hell, I think about that all the time in relationships, right? Say for so if I get involved, with a woman who maybe doesn't come from the same life experience that I come from. And now, I'm moving and shaking at this soiree event, or I got to go do press or whatever it may be, like just the lifestyle that I've, command for the past 20 some odd years.
Right.
Is she able to adapt in that lifestyle? Because now that's not only a reflection of me, it's a reflection of my business, it's a reflection of everything that I do from here on out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, like, they do say the people you keep closest to you is not only the strongest representation, but also one of the biggest influences to who you are as a person.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Um, so I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but that idea of being brand new is two sides. It's the representation that you wear, that you put forth to the world, and then also the projection that people put on you.
Yeah. Said like multiple things I could tackle, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to go with. I'm gonna go with this one. So going back to the film, when the and I forgot the main guy's name that basically, you get into it with um
Lamont.
Come
Lamont, right? Is it just a feeling? Is it just someone wanting to be opposition just to be opposition? Because you see everyone else who is, oh, look at you, yeah, do that. Oh, you see, oh, I like that. I be stacking. It like everyone's hype. But the one is like, nah, I'm because sometimes it feels like certain people are clearly, I feel like, from what I know, Lamont has an issue, has a real reason why he doesn't, whatever. But there are sometimes from a general perspective where people just don't want to follow the pact.
Mm-hmm.
And then a part of it seemed like, okay, you want to be an op just because, instead of like having real reason. And I wonder if how much of it is actually deep rooted in having an issue with a person versus I just don't like how much hype he's getting. And I don't agree with that. Go ahead.
So that's a really great question. And one thing that Denzel and I wanted to impart or have the audience feel on multiple watches is realizing that everything that Lamont, who is an antagonist in the film, does, he does because he has a deep, deep love for Anton.
Mm.
He just doesn't know how to say it. You know what I mean? And there is something about like being in a room full of people and they're all able to do something that you're not able to do. Even if that thing is express love, you know what I mean? So like, I don't want to give too much away in the film for people who watch it, but there is a moment where Lamont is the only one in the room not doing something, kind of like what you alluded to.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to handle that. He wants to engage, but he doesn't know how to handle it.
Mhm.
And when we don't know how to handle things, a lot of times or when we're afraid that we're coming off a certain way, our inclination is to act with aggression. You know what I mean? So it's like, even if you're faced with somebody in real life that you have a deep love for, like, I'm proud of this dude. You know what I mean? And I regret that I created this rift between us. How do I say that I love you and I want you to win, but I'm not ready to say, I can't say those words, you know? And it may come off as like, oh, you up now, huh?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Which the recipient of that language would be like, so what are you trying to say? It's like, I'm just saying you up, you know, it's good to see you winning, bro. It's like, no, what you really trying to say though, you know? And that's the exchange that happens.
Yeah.
So it's like it Denzel and I talked a lot about like, this is not a hater. This is a lover who does not know how to express love. The only
Mm.
thing he's ever known is aggression. So everything he does is aggressive. You know what I mean? Denzel, thoughts?
So if you want to add, because I have a piggyback question on that is I want to know why are those relationships so difficult at an adult age? Like
Mm.
why do we I feel like when you're younger, you just kind of because I mean it's not like we all are different even from growing from high school, right? Somebody has better grades than the other, someone
Yeah.
gets a job in the other one, someone get a nicer car, whatever the case may be. But for some reason, in my opinion, I feel like at the adult age it just kind of, I don't know if it boils over or it escalates, or I want to know why that is or your
I
thoughts on it.
I've
Yeah,
thought on that, but Denzel, you go first.
I got a thought to that. By the way, beautifully said what Quincy has said, on the outlook of Lamont. I think the extension of that is, look, it's hard to change a zebra's stripes. It's different when you've lived 30, 40, 50, 60 some odd years on this earth to change behavior. Like when you think about racism, like racism is something that's taught. You know what I mean? When you point out the example of just like children, yeah, there's certain behaviors, certain traits, we're learning what's right and wrong, but you can feel when you hurt somebody. And as kids, it's a lot easier to mold, emotions. It's a lot easier to mold that ideology of like, hey man, don't do this. This is how you can carry yourself, etc. But again, that comes down to being given the tools along the way. So a cat like Lamont, who maybe hasn't been given the same tools as Anton, or maybe hasn't been given the same exposure as Anton, Lamont is a product of his environment, you know. So then you gotta step back from just the one individual, and then you have to analyze the entire environment itself. And that's why it's such a tragic story because, Quincy and I have, we've been blessed to be outliers of our environment, but when you step back, you see kind of the behavior um, that still exists within our community. Again, going back to scarcity mentality, going back to competition, this idea that we have to be more man than the other man. You know what I mean? The idea that we can't share or show vulnerability, especially within our community, because that makes us weak. And if we show any signs of weakness, that's how they tore us down before. There's all this compounded ideology that we've inherently taken on, and again, that's just passed down the same way racism is just passed down. um, I remember reading once um, this idea that it takes far less work to grow a weed than it does to grow flowers. Weeds grow on their own.
Yeah.
You let your yard run wild, and they'll be just as wild as you want them to be. But to pour care and love, to nurture, to water, to have that sunshine spread upon that seed, to then grow this beautiful flower bed, you have to cultivate that. You know what I mean? And that's, some of the things that we're experiencing with Lamont. It's just, it's unfortunately a weed running wild, and that's not to downplay Lamont or speak negatively about him. But what if we cultivated that same person? What if we cared for him a little bit more, showed him a little bit more kindness, compassion? How would he be able to then express love? You know?
My pushback is, do you have, is that your responsibility? Do you have the time? Um, is that something you want to deal with at this point in your life? Because I think for us who have, like, we are all busy. I tell you, but anyone over 30 who's doing, they're busy. Like, everybody's busy. There's different forms of it, sure, 9 to 5, whatever the case may be, but just living life, you're busy. And I think when we get into adult relationships, or when we have these adult relationships, yes, I completely agree with you that all of these things need to happen or should happen, or we should give people grace. I also don't know how many people, or if a person has the time to be able to give it to you, to where I'm like, you know what? I tried, if it's minimal. And then I also have to remove myself from that situation in order for me to grow and to do what I need to do.
Okay. My rebuttal to that is this. You kind of see this play out in the film. Anton has a son. Anton chooses that night to, because of the guilt that he faces, show up for the friends, feeling that maybe there's still a chance to salvage them. And for just a few hours, understands and unfortunately feels the repercussions of that same thought. He has a son at home where he could have spent those very same hours being with his son and continuing to impart within his son's life. And so, not to give away the film, but towards the end, you see him wrestle with the decisions that he's made that night and then actively choose to pour into the next generation. That's not to say that, you get to a certain age and all is lost. No, anybody has the capacity to change, but that person has to make the decision to change within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So my rebuttal to you is, look, again, let's take it to relationships, right? I'm sure you've been in a relationship where maybe you and such, you might see things a certain way, she might see things a certain way, however it may be. That's not up to you to really change her, but to be there and support her. And how long do you want to support that before it becomes then damaging to yourself? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So on an adult level, I'm not saying all hope is lost, but sometimes you got to know when to love somebody near and love somebody from a distance.
Sure.
For me, it's a case by case. I think, to answer your question, Eric, it's a case by case. Like, I think a lot about, like, will will this person receive the time I'm putting in? You know what I mean? And vice versa. Like, will I receive the time they're putting into me? You know what I mean? And it's a case by case. Some people, like, you try to bless them, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna do this for this dude. He ain't going, he's still gonna be talking that stuff, man. Let me just move on. You know what I mean? But and I'm the same way. Like, sometimes I can feel myself, like when I was younger, especially my parents telling me stuff, and I'm just like, whatever, you old, you know what I mean? So that's that. I think it's a case by case, but I always think, if there is a hint of hope that the time you put into a relationship is going to be received, it's worth it. It's worth the time. It's worth making time for. To answer your other question, I think that when we're younger, the reason why it's easier when you're younger is because we're all taught that the stakes are lower when we're younger. You know what I mean? When we're teenagers, when we're in middle school, high school, even college, it's like later on it gets real. Later on, it gets serious. So it's easier for us to be willing to take risks, make mistakes when we're younger, even if that thought process is happening on a subconscious level. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's all right that this relationship didn't work out. I'm gonna have another one, you know. But then when you get older, those that 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 idea that the stakes are higher now is hammered into us, so we're less likely to be willing to make mistakes, be willing to take risks, which I think ultimately does us all, no matter background or culture, a disservice. Because you know life is just growth. There's no point where you're like, I got it figured out. I saw a picture of my dad when he was 35 or like 38 or something like that, holding me as a kid. I turned 44 next week, bro. So it's like I'm looking at this guy who I've always seen as like up here as a young man. You know what I mean? And it was like, wow, I remember what my life was and the questions I had and the fears I had when I was 35. And there he is holding little me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, damn, like I've grown so much since I was 35. And to think that my dad had the same kind of growth between that time, where I always saw him as having always had it figured out, it blew my mind. You know what I mean? So it's like I went on a tangent there, but it's just like I think one thing that I think is beautiful about the film and that I hope people get out of the film as they watch it over and over and over again, which I hope they do, um, is that we're always emerging as a butterfly, bro. That process doesn't stop, you know? And that comes with developing new relationships, fostering current relationships, and just being open to change and making mistakes and learning from them and becoming wiser. You know what I mean?
What advice, and I want answers from both of you, what advice do you have for someone who is feeling that guilt right now, to kind of go to get past it? I think a lot of times we're in our minds a lot, about everything. And I always say I'm an Aquarius. All I do is think all day, every day. Um, and I just wonder, like, what would you say to someone who is kind of in that space right now where it's like you want to grow, but you also don't don't want to leave your people behind, but also may have to, but you're in that kind of in between. And I know it's kind of different for everybody, but I wonder just kind of a general idea of what the thought process would be, for someone that's kind of in that space right now. Denzel, I'm gonna toss it back to you.
It's a complex question. Um, the reason why I say it's a complex question is because we'll never know what decision is right or wrong until we look backwards or we get to the end of life and we think, am I happy with this, right? Let me just put it for myself. There is something that I'm looking to build. There is a dream that I feel like God has placed within me that when I go to bed and when I wake up, I see it just as clear as day. There is a legacy and stories that I'd like to tell and things I'd like to leave behind for my family. And so anything that deviates me away from that mission, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the dream that I have within my heart. So I guess when I personally wrestle with, the themes of the film or, friendships that I feel like might start to become a disservice to that very same dream that I hold near and dear, That's when I really got to, get low. I really got to go internal and I really got to think, how do I get there? Because this door, this avenue, it's not going to stay open forever. They say like a thought is never really truly yours. Like you might have a thought, but somebody across the globe, there are 8 some odd billion people, probably even more than that, who might be all having the same thought. God gives you this vision. What are you going to do with it, right? That door is only going to be open for a select amount of time. And then somebody else might enter that door. There might be a certain room, just like I was describing this past weekend. I couldn't invite anybody. This invite was for me only. And I'm so grateful for that. But let me first walk through the door. Let me feel it out, see what the space is like, look at the furniture, take a look at the walls, the painting, maybe do a little redecorating. And then finally, when I have, that ownership, when I'm able to, hey man, come on in, come check it out. Or you know what? Hey, bring him too. And we'll have a housewarming next week. How about everybody come over? But first, I got to get through that door. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's not easy because I like to give chances. I like to give a lot of chances. Like I said, everybody has the capacity to change. Um, I want just what's best for everybody. But again, I sometimes you gotta walk through that door alone. You
Mhm.
gotta go do it for yourself. You gotta do it for the dream that you've built within your heart. And then when you have the capacity and when it makes sense, when it's not so much of a liability for yourself, don't forget to reach back.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with everything Denzel said. I'll just add that, sometimes those feelings of guilt are here to stay. There are things I feel guilty of from 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And in some instances, you know, do what you have to do. You know what I mean? Um, Sometimes the decisions that we make for ourselves, I've learned sometimes the decisions that we make for ourselves hurt other people, not in a malicious way. It's just like, I can't hang anymore. You know what I mean? And the work that I do emotionally in those cases is just like reminding myself that I did what I had to do. I'm gonna find out later if it was the right decision. I'll never know what the alternative is because we're living in this thread of the multiverse, the universe, or whatever. And I forgive myself. I work really hard on forgiving myself. You know what I mean? Like I did what I had to do. I felt right about it. I thought a lot about it because I don't make big decisions like that without thinking. Um, Talking to other people, and then just keep moving forward. You know.
Ooh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Out of those decisions that you feel the most guilty about, how many of them do you regret?
There's one thing I did that I wish I did differently. I wish I said no to something. I wish I said no to. There are two times where I should have said no to something sooner. So there's one thing I said yes to that I should have said no to. I went through with it and it fell apart. It was catastrophic. And in making that decision, I I didn't hurt physically or emotionally, but I kind of messed up a situation for other people because I said yes to something I wasn't ready to say yes to.
Mm.
The other thing I regret is I said no to something that I should have said no to a long time ago. You know what I mean? And I regret not saying no sooner to that and not saying yes to the other thing. But those are the only two times where I feel like regret. Everything else, I'm like, you know what? I learned a lesson. I came up, you know?
Even in the no and the shorter time frame, which you should have done longer time ago, got that. That makes sense. Now the one that you said yes, that you should have said no to, there's nothing that you pulled from that
Oh,
situation that would make you not regret it because you've learned.
it changed everything about how I work. Everything.
But
It changed.
necessary. That was
Point.
necessary.
That's a good point.
That
Yeah.
was necessary. You know what I mean? Like we've all had. Listen, crazy stuff happened. I'm pretty sure we can have a whole nother Zoom
Yeah.
on that. But I
I feel
feel
guilt.
like
Yeah.
those type of things definitely they change your shift. Like there's
Yeah.
a no BS
Mhm.
type because I will never allow that situation to ever
Yeah.
happen.
Exactly. I guess I feel guilt because those other people had to pay the price for my for me learning that lesson, you know. And they're fine. Everyone's fine. No one's feelings are hurt or whatever. It's just like, man, everyone was excited for this thing and I messed it up. It had to happen because, you know, it changed everything about the way I work. I'm like that, like you said, Eric, that I was like, that can never happen again. And it hasn't happened since, and it'll never happen again. But you know, those poor people, you know, had to watch me emerge as a butterfly in real time.
You can't feel
Um,
about that, I guess.
so I want to, if I could change, I don't know how much time you guys got, but I want to kind of get into a little bit of like technical stuff. I want to know, like creating a short film. We have a lot of followers who are or supporters who are just interested in like the behind the scenes and making things happen. So I just want to know into kind of how was it? I will guess first start with like challenges on going in and shooting this. Either one can jump in.
Denzel, you go first.
You sure?
Wait,
Uh,
he wasn't the one. This wasn't some catastrophic that he was involved in, right? Just making sure,
no,
Quincy.
no,
Okay.
no.
No, look, I'll say the opposite, at least from my standpoint, Quincy. I'll let you share. This has been one of the best collaborations I've ever been involved in.
Mhm.
Like Quincy is such a giving, incredible, thoughtful, as you can see, collaborator,
Thank
and really just made me better as an artist. Um, I think we always made sure that we felt right about every single decision that we made with this project. Um, and there'd be times because Q's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, so there'd be times where either he's calling me bright and early in the morning, or I'm hitting him up late at night with just all type of ideas. I'm usually the one with the wildest ideas.
you.
Because you'd be like, I don't know. But that's what we did. It was such a lovely process. Um, I would say some of the challenges we faced are, look, coming off of Black Panther, one of the things I learned about just capital and film is it just gains you so much time, and it just allows you the toys and the resources. But there is a beauty to not having enough money. There's a beauty to not having enough time. You know, especially on an indie level, we always find like these wonderful gems when we're boxed in a corner and we really have to get creative. So I mean, just the resources that we were able to call upon, or the favors, or people who really like poured their heart and their time and their soul and dedicated themselves to this project. I mean, people who were flying in specifically just to work on this for us. That's where the true gems were. The gems are, having somebody like a Chip the Rip who has his own studio and he's excited and proud to have his studio in the film. Um, the airplane set that we were able to film on, which it's like we only had half a day to shoot there, but we got to figure it out. And so preparation was massive for us. Um, of course, raising funds for a short film is hard because short films don't typically make returns like that. So for an investor, they're like, well, where is my return? And a lot of times it's the calling card. A lot of times it's getting you into the room with different, studio executives, playing the festival market. Um, there's mad benefits to short films, but again, you have to be savvy even as a filmmaker how you sell that to an investor. You know what I mean? And there's different things that we've implored within our fundraising campaign where like we had a fiscal sponsor, so we're able to get our investors at least a tax write-off on their donation. You know what I mean? So that incentivizes them to want to donate to our short film. um
Message.
I'm trying to think of other challenges that we face, but to be honest, the biggest challenge is just time and no's and people not understanding your vision. But those are all, wonderful little blessings along the way because it forces you to really, really get creative. And those very same challenges, any challenge that we've ever faced within this film ended up being an unexpected blessing.
That's facts. Just to amplify what Denzel said, I think the challenges are, for me, as a director, always my Denzel knows this about me. He heard me say this exhaustively. Probably got tired of me saying it. It's like, we need to protect the vision, bro. You know, like, the vision needs our protection, you know. Protect the fucking vision. Like that's for me, that's the hardest thing about making films, because like as soon as the universe is like, oh, where are you making a film? There's so many different ways you can go, so many different people you could bring on board. And the challenge is, and it's a fun challenge, is like, who do we bring on that will help serve this film? You know what I mean? Like, who do we bring onto the crew? Who do we bring onto the cast that we can foster? Because you're fostering a culture. You know what I mean? You're creating a business and fostering a culture within that business, and you got to do it really fast with a little bit of money. Like, that's the challenge. But like Denzel said, like, it always ends up being good if you focus on remembering that, the goal, at least for me, isn't to just to like get on, or one day we're gonna make $1 million. It's like, yo, we feel passionate about making this film. How do we make it while fostering a good environment for everybody to do their best work? And doing that is really, really hard because there's so many influences outside saying, well, you should do it like this. You should work with this person. You should do that. You should do that. And it's about like cutting out all the noise and just sticking to what matters. Yeah.
I want to know from both of you, how do you feel about the industry right now? And you both have had experience behind the camera, in front of the camera. And I was going to get specific, but I don't really want to get specific. I just want to know, how do you feel about the industry in which you are as people of color, Black men, in this space right now? I'll let you both ponder, but then whoever wants to jump in first, please.
We've talked about this. Denzel and I have talked about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes disagreeing, but always knowing where the other person is coming from, with love. I will say I am eternally optimistic about where things are now, because the things that have happened, especially with the strikes, like, it was hard for everyone, is hard continually for everyone. But when you think about it, it needed to happen, because we was out here wilding. Like, these studios was out here wilding out. You know what I mean? Like, people wasn't getting the right residuals. Like, the industry hadn't recalibrated itself for streaming. You know what I mean? So you hear stories about like the cast of The Orange Is the New Black, like in season 2 or whatever it was, being on that show, but still having to wait tables. Come on, fam. Like, what?
That piece just minimally was happening way too long for them not to have figured it out sooner. For sure. It'd be one thing if it's like, oh, streaming just happened 2 years ago. No. Way too long for you guys not to figure it out.
But and also, to your point, like, streaming, like the industry's kind of knee-jerk reaction to like, oh, Netflix is popping, we're gonna make our own Netflix. It's like, fam, Netflix already exists. You know what I mean? So like, how are we gonna elevate what we're doing? And the industry had to recalibrate itself for that, because a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, just trying to compete in the marketplace without that intentionality. And unfortunately, we all have paid the price over the past couple of years to that recalibration, but it needed to happen. Now, in terms of where we are as, Black men, Black people in this industry, I think that that's up to us. And I think it's always been up to us. I think that the industry has sold us a lot of, magic bean. They sold us some magic beans. Like, you look like this, therefore you have to do it this way. And you have to look like this, you have to be this way. But I think as soon as we all collectively say, but what about this other thing that y'all doing that you're not letting us do? What if we just do that? I think it's just a matter of doing it. Now, it's harder for us. It's harder.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
It's
Yeah.
harder for us. But since it's harder for us, I feel like we need to allow each other to do it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I can't. Denzel's read my screenplays. Denzel's seen the stuff I make. It's not allowed, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people look at me like, bro, what are you doing? Like, the references you're making are like, what even is that? You're supposed to be doing this. And not only does the industry do that to us, we have started to do it to each other. And we need to stop doing that to each other. I don't think it's, I think crabs in the barrel is a real thing, but I don't think it's as pervasive as we've been led to believe it is. We are really supportive of each other. You know what I mean? But I think that we need to allow each other to be anything. And we need to make space for each other to do anything we want to do and celebrate that, even if we don't mess with it, rock with it like that. It's like, yo, but you did it though, and it's good to see you doing something else. Denzel, thoughts?
I have so many.
Eric, I can't tell you how many times Denzel and I have spent hours talking about this very subject.
I have so many. There's a lot of directions to take this conversation.
Make sure you know this is recorded and going to be streamed on our YouTube.
Oh yeah.
It'll be public.
I'm not trying to put my foot in my mouth, so to speak. Let me put it like this. As an actor, what's so interesting about being behind the camera is the agency that you're able to give yourself and to understand that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Excuse my language.
Preach.
Multiple years as an actor, I walk into a room, I have my sides in hand. I'm asking for something. I'm asking just to be seen. I'm asking that, man, please like my performance so then you can go show it to such and such and then they can love it. And then hopefully, the people who have the money, they're willing to let the money go so then I could get this opportunity so I could be a star. And I'm still very grateful for the career I have. Don't get me wrong. Grateful for the connections I have. But then you start to realize when you get behind the camera how many things that are out of your control, right? And so now I'll transition to just being a filmmaker. Oh man, I have this wonderful script. If only I could just find the financier to give me the money. So then I could go to make this and then I could get these people to believe in this vision and then I could get it done, right? Every single day that you create something, that you step out of your house, where you go into a meeting, you're an entrepreneur representing your own company, right? And so I grapple with the idea of the current state of the industry is because we're all just in flux. We're all trying to figure out what's the next best thing, right? Like, I love the days of the 90s and the 80s where, IP was so expansive and they really spent time developing projects, and it seemed like there was this wonderful golden age of where like funds were just available. Maybe too many funds. They were just throwing funds left and right, right?
I always say if I could go back to a time frame, it'd be like the 90s. If I was doing what I was doing, media, magazine, the 90s, music videos, $1 million. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, but you know what? There's something to be said about there's always going to be a software update no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the strike happened, it's a software update. There's always going to be a new system. And then in order to change that system or at least poke holes and show you where, your virus or spyware could come in, you got to disrupt the system. You have to break the rules, so to speak. You have to go find where the holes are. And it's not just our industry, it's any industry. So look, my whole thing is I don't like sitting around waiting and asking for permission. Drives me insane. I don't like having an idea and then thinking to myself, well, how do we get it done? Damn it, we don't have the equipment. Damn it, we don't have the money. Damn it, we don't have such and such, right? Grinds my gears. So, you know, just let's talk purely as creators, right? One of the last frontiers that is really probably the hardest to tackle and takes the most capital is distribution. What happens when we disrupt that model? You know, you see now more than ever, especially people of color who are now building their own production companies
Right.
and, jump starting their own projects. That wasn't happening like 10, 20 years ago. It was way less. You only have a handful, especially within creators of color, who were really jump starting their own production companies. Now it seems like they're throwing them out left and right. Hey man, you got a new company, you got a new company, you got a 3-picture deal, fantastic. But we're still asking someone to get something done. And now it's even harder. I mean, there's people that we respect, like your Spike Lees or your Scorsese's, who have projects they've been sitting on for years and they're still begging to get these things financed.
Mhm.
So, more so than the streaming model updating, when are we going to get to a point where we don't have to beg anymore? And I don't know if there's a true answer for that. I don't. But the thing I know is continue to push, 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 and stop asking for it. If it doesn't come from one location, go get it from another location. Like, look, if our film, God forbid, doesn't work in the United States, we've taken this thing to Japan. We gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's for anybody right now with the current state of the industry. I don't know what the update is going to be. I only know that I love this thing too much, and there's got to be a way.
I love what you're saying, Denzel, and to piggyback on it from a broader perspective in thinking about like the industry as a whole. One thing I know for certain is it's never a good time to make a movie.
Never.
Never a good time. It's like it like think about it. Think about it. Like the concept of making movies, like, listen, and I tell people this all the time. It's like, all right, look, I had a dream and I wrote it down, and all I need from you is $10 million.
Right.
Like, what are you even talking about? Like, it's never a good time to make a movie. Even like the we always look at the past with rose-colored glasses, but like in the 90s, like there was one kind of black film that was being made, really. You know what I mean? And if you didn't do that, there was no space for you. If you're an indigenous filmmaker, forget about it. If you're an AAPI filmmaker, what was it? Joy Luck Club, and that's it. You know what I mean? So we look back like, yeah, man, shit was popping in the 90s and the 80s. Indie film was up, like, but not for most people, you know? So it wasn't a good time back then. Now, also, uh-oh, what's up, D? What's up, D?
Hold on. Here's where I'm going to cut you out, though, right?
Uh-huh.
We look back on the historical fact of that, right? Just in pure awe of everything that happened. But it's like right now, black creators, right? We're fighting for like Oscars is so white and different things like that. We're still fighting for establishments that really. Let me watch what I say right now. We're still fighting for establishments that for better or for worse, it's like I will try to include you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, we can only change the system if we really, really get involved and get from the inside and work from the inside, right?
Yeah.
But even if we're on the inside, here's what I'm getting at. You say there's only one type of black film back in the 90s. You say like indigenous people forget about it.
That's high pop. There was more, but like Boys in the Hood, which is one of the best American films ever made, followed by Menace to Society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what. Yeah.
Follow me though. What I'm saying is like right now, more so than ever, as creators, there's so many outlets.
Yes.
So many ways to get it. Right now, more than ever, is the best time that we have. But
Yeah.
again, especially for our own culture, I ask, can we push ourselves to a higher standard? Because the
Mhm.
one thing we don't have now that we did have was that the amount of no's that were given to us, we had to craft. And I'm
Yes.
not just saying that for black filmmakers. I'm not just saying that for filmmakers of color. I'm saying that for all filmmakers. There was a craftsmanship that has been lost over time that we no longer have.
I will say that, like, and this is one thing I want, like, people in our community and other communities to look towards, is like, I would say that about, based on my limited knowledge, I'm not a doctor in this shit, but like what they were doing internationally, you know what I mean? The craft is so rich internationally. You know what I mean? Like the range of different kinds of textures and voices and stuff like that internationally has always been richer, in my humble opinion, than here. Like the blockbuster is like an American thing. You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, somebody may leave a comment, be like, Quincy Ledbetter doesn't know what he's talking about, cancel this man. But I'm only saying I only know what I know. But like, I think that it's always been there, but are we engaging with it? And I think I agree with you, Denzel. We're like, we need to engage with that more because it's there for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the oppressor has convinced us that that's not for us.
Yeah.
And we tell that lie to each other now.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? This movie's too long. You know what I mean? Like, like this movie's too long. I ain't gonna watch it. Oh, I only like stuff about this. I only watch this channel, this kind of show with this thing. And it's like, but there's a whole world. And I want us to open ourselves up to it. Not saying that we're the only ones that don't open ourselves up to it, because that's a very human thing. Like tribalism is a human thing. But if we realize that we can do anything if we support each other and just like look behind the corner that we don't want to look behind, then the things that we discover is just like, holy smokes.
But then
You
that's also a consumer issue too.
know?
You see it right now in rap. Think about what rap was in the 90s, the early 2000s versus what it is now.
Okay.
I'm not labeling any names out here, but the bar is in hell in terms of what you got to do for performances and just to write something. A lot of it is now just feelings and emotions where people used to
Vibes.
be so poetic. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Let's just take a real simple example like Camp Low.
Mhm.
Try finding any rapper of today who can even mirror a modicum of the poetry that Camp Low was putting out on their records.
Denzel,
But
they're out there. We're just not paying attention.
okay, no, but that's what I mean. That's why it's two parts. It's number one, giving an outlet for that artist, but number two, even as a consumer, what do we digest? Holding ourselves to a higher standard. That's why I say the bar is so far in hell is because like we'll just damn near accept anything right now. Oh man, I can't even understand the words, but I love this feeling. I say that as a Playboy Cardi fan, but it ain't like Playboy Cardi is revolutionizing the world right now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's an emotion, sure, but I still want to hear something of substance.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And there's very few people that feel like I feel. Most people are okay just stopping at Playboy Cardi and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to your point about like what people were doing, overseas or internationally and things like that, cats are still doing that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you try putting on a film like Drive My Car to cats that we know, they'd be like, turn this bullshit off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
They'll-
such an amazing film.
It's
Such an
an
amazing.
amazing film, but they'll be quick to be like, get that out of here. You know
But
what I
but where do you think that comes from? I think the where does that come from? I think is what we're talking about. I
mean?
think it comes from like, this feels different. I don't want to feel different because feeling different is scary. It's not, it doesn't feel safe. Like, oh, you mean I gotta like be present and like sit here with this? Nah, nah. And I think changing our mindset in that regard opens us up. It doesn't mean that you gotta like Drive My Car, which is an amazing film. Everyone should watch it. But like, it doesn't mean you gotta like it. But getting in the practice of being present and letting the thing be what it is, as opposed to this thing that you expect it to be or want it to be, the world is yours. The world is yours.
Great, but see, fam, this is where I also get mad because you and I debate back and forth about Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes. Yes.
You know me, I'm willing to be artsy with you. But
Yeah.
my man over there, I don't know who his financiers are, but they just shelling out money. They just shelling out money. Are you kidding me? Why
Yeah.
is it that we got to be held to a higher standard? Why is it that we got to over explain our projects 4 or 5 times over? But when Yorgos comes around, oh man, just give him 10 million. Stop it.
Because the man's proven himself. Now, I will say, for context, so Eric, sorry, we're going. This is our conversation with me.
I'm absorbing.
Yeah. So, for context, for people who don't know, there's a Greek filmmaker named Yorgos Lanthimos who has made some of the most provocative films of the past decade. Now, Denzel, in your case, you dove into the deep end with Yorgos, which, he's the kind of filmmaker where you gotta watch The Lobster first, then you gotta watch The Favorite, then you dive in. You dove into Poor Things, bro, and then you dove into Kinds of Kindness.
Poor things is fine. I just said it's too long.
Which boggles the mind. There is an argument to be made that the last 20 minutes could be shaved.
Are you kidding me? Oh man, I couldn't wait to go to the bathroom. Woof.
But what I'm saying,
There's a swift 20, 30 minutes could be cut out of that film.
but dig this. Here's the difference between what we're talking about and like what we want everyone else to do.
Okay.
You watched the films. You gave them a shot.
Gotta give him a shot. Have to
You
give
know
him
what
a
I mean?
shot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't
I believe in that. Yes.
exactly. You
Yes.
watched it and you can articulate why you don't like it, why you
Yes.
don't mess with those films. In the same way that I can articulate why I love those films.
Yes. The issue is that social media has created a space to where we trust this person who we like in terms of they told us good movies, and when they tell us it's good movies and we agree with them, we take it. But when they tell us it's a bad movie, we don't even look at it.
Mhm.
So that therein lies the issue. So I understand from both of your points about, the societal experience we now have in terms of what we accept as good or bad. I don't look at ratings or look at, Rotten Tomatoes and all that type of stuff. If it's a premise that I like, it looks good, I'm going to check it out. If I don't like it, sure. I normally don't tell people I don't like stuff. I always tell people what I do like. But, I agree with you. I think for us, as specifically talking about Black creators, on a kind of side note, is that white people make trash all the time. Sorry. They do. They are able to create, they have the ability to fail so much more than we can. And the only way to get better is if you try it and you do it and then you get the feedback. They have the opportunity to do that. We don't.
Yeah.
So every time we put out something, it has to be phenomenal or we won't get a chance again. And that's unfortunate. And I think coming back to the conversation is everyone needs to be able to, one, support us. I always say, even if I don't like something or don't really care about a film or something like that, I'm going to at least let my audience know that it is available. There's a platform that I love called Blex Media, BLEX Media, that does a phenomenal job on Black TV films, and they're always promoting everything that's going on. They're going to tell you. So it's very important for us to, one, be informed, but also to at least, at minimum, watch it. If you don't like it, sure, but at least you supported the person to at least give it a try to see what you like or not.
Absolutely.
But moving forward to that, although we got time out of here, is when will we be able to see Brand New? Festival circuit coming up, all that good stuff. Yes. Am I making this up or I'm right?
I would advise people, because there are some things there. We do have some major festival screenings coming up in the United States on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Perfect.
We're not allowed to say yet, but if you follow the Brand New Instagram page, we're very quick and prolific in making those updates. So the best thing you can do is follow the Instagram, the Brand New Instagram, because you will get those updates in real time. And a lot of these festivals now, even if you're not in the same city where it's screening in person, they offer online screenings during the same time. So follow the Brand New Instagram. Very, very, very soon we will be announcing West Coast and East Coast screenings. And one we can say is Martha's Vineyard is happening, right?
Yep.
Denzel. Yeah,
We-
we're in the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival.
I was gonna say you asked the question and then said it, so I
Yeah,
hope.
yeah. I
we-
remember it as I was saying, like the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival is screening brand new. So that's happening in the immediate future, but East Coast and West Coast screenings at some other big festivals are coming soon.
Perfect.
That was so well said. I was about to totally Tom Holland that moment.
This was like, we got into this festival and this festival and those
Promo,
festivals.
promo.
Yeah. And those festivals calls like, we told you not to announce yet.
All right. So my last question is I want to know when I Be Stacking will be on Apple Music or on Spotify or at least a SoundCloud.
So we do have a companion piece that we're going to
Okay.
be releasing with the film. And
Okay.
as we do a wider release of the film, which will most likely take place after our festival run,
Okay.
you'll get to enjoy some original music from the project,
Okay.
along with music that inspired the project as well.
I love it. Please
Yeah.
keep me. I don't know about anybody else, but me. That's what I want to know.
Be on the lookout. It's like what we said about our 90s films. You remember when the Batman soundtrack came out? You remember when the Space Jam soundtrack came out? Well, guess what? Brand new got its own thing.
Yeah.
I love it. My brothers, thank you so much. This was phenomenal and a great film. I want everyone to check it out. And I'm excited for everything that you guys are doing. I am definitely a fan. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate it.